To rig an election, it will need the collaboration of the party agents, the observers, our presiding officer, the auditing, auditing
Yes.
industry,
Yes.
and party representatives will be here. Now, I'm not sure whether you can manage it to get all those people to collaborate in your rigging
favor.
project. I don't think it's possible. The Commission will deliver this election based on principles of integrity. The Commission will implement the law and will do so without fear, favor, or prejudice. Our responsibility is to ensure that we give expression to the choices of the voter. That's how we understand our mandate.
King David Studio Podcast.
Do you know what I always say? My guests don't need any introduction. Today, Kenale Mamabolo, who's CEO of the IEC 2024, in an interesting election that a lot of people are saying is one of the biggest we've had. Rewe, I hope you're well.
Yes, I'm well, thanks, and thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. Maybe I was here last night and you were here, and I'm here tonight and you're here.
Yeah, no, this is my home for the next few days.
Putting up an event, I'll call it that, an event of this size, surely not a small feat. Give me a sense of its scale.
Well, putting together an event of the magnitude of an election takes 24 months of planning. So what you see here and what you'll see unfold on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is actually an effort of men and women who put together thoughts over a period of 24 months.
Yeah.
So that 24 months is going to culminate in an election result that will be declared from these grounds next week.
As free and fair, we hope.
It has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be free and fair. Systems are there, people are there, processes are there to ensure that it is free and fair.
It's something that stands out about this election, particularly from the perspective of us as just people watching, is that you're getting more criticism this year than probably any other election. Am I wrong to make that observation?
No, you're right. It's a correct observation, but it's because of the dynamics in the political environment, because of the tensions in the political environment, because of the splintering involved in political parties. You see that type of hostility towards the Commission. But the Commission will deliver this election based on principles of integrity. The Commission will implement the law and will do so without fear, favor, or prejudice, even against popular sentiment.
What is popular sentiment?
We will do what is right. People say we ought not to have gone to the Constitutional Court, placing pressure on us not to do it, when in fact it's not the right thing to do. The right thing to do, take the matters, get the clarity that is needed, and let everybody then know how to interpret Section 47(1)(e). Let everybody know what the remission of sentence actually means, which we now have. Had we not gone, we'll still be in the dark as to what exactly that section of the law says.
Do you know, there's a friend of mine who says one day we will thank former President Jacob Zuma for always testing the Constitution and stretching it to the limit. And whether we agree or not, that effort clarified something important.
Absolutely, he's right, because he's created scenarios and called for interpretations of the law and the Constitution in a manner not anticipated or ever done before. So he's helping us grow our own constitutional jurisprudence, which can only be welcome.
Did you feel vindicated in that moment? Because it must have been pressure, I imagine. You know, for people who are leading this organization, to be told what you're doing is wrong, you shouldn't be doing it, you are favoring other political parties over others. That surely wasn't a good feeling.
Of course, never a good feeling to receive criticism. Human nature doesn't allow for that. But you've got to really insulate yourself from the politics of the issue and then say, what is it that the law calls on us to do? Act without fear, act without favor and act without prejudice, and always stay in the middle lane of the law. Because once you go outside of the provisions of the law, then you start interpreting to favor this one when a moment arises, interpreting it this way to favor a different one when another moment arises. So just stay in the center of the law. That helps you to be consistent. And I think despite the criticism, the Commission has been consistent in its application of the law and will stay so to a point where the results that we will announce in the next few days will be the results based on the views and the choices of the South African voter. Ours is not to interfere with what the voter says. Our responsibility is to ensure that we give expression to the choices of the voter. That's how we understand our mandate.
You are dealing with, give or take, 14,000 candidates, so to speak.
Yeah.
The names that are of people that are meant to be going to Parliament. If there were 14,000 seats, they would all go.
Yes.
Yes. However, it's only 400 that will end up going. I imagine that scale, is it the biggest the IEC has had?
Is the biggest in a national and provincial election. The scale is much bigger in a local government election. Of course. But of course, even the seats are much bigger. Yeah.
Yes,
but in a national and provincial election is big. So there are only 400 seats, as you say, in the National Assembly, and another 487 seats in the provinces.
Yeah.
So altogether, 887 seats. However, there are 14,903 candidates. So you're going to sit with 14,100 people who you can't assign seats to because they can't all be winners.
Yes.
And human nature being what it is, people will be disappointed. But we hope that there is maturity in the disappointment. There's magnanimity for those that have won, so that they would have won with honor, and those that lose, they lose gracefully. But a lot then depends on how well we manage the process, because managing the process well will go a long way in assuaging the hard feelings of those who may not win seats.
Yes. Yeah. So with 14,000, over 14,000 candidates, we're dealing with 14,000 potential complaints.
Oh no, certainly. What this election has also taught us is that the electoral landscape has become quite litigious, and it would be naive of the Commission to think that there won't be litigation even after the election.
You already anticipate?
Of course, we have to.
Yeah,
we have to.
You have lawyers ready.
We have our counsel team on the ready. We have a panel of attorneys on the ready, precisely because we've got to protect the outcome. We've got to protect electoral democracy and ensuring that those who feel affronted don't use the opportunity of this election to destroy a democracy that is 30 years in the making.
That's true. Do you, as an individual, a South African, and I imagine a patriot, do you recognize the magnitude of your role?
No, I do. I do. I think that sometimes it overwhelms.
Really?
It does overwhelm when you think about the enormity of the responsibility we carry. But it's a responsibility we're taking in our strides. We've done it before. We're going to do it again. Hopefully even better at the level of quality, because South Africans do expect things to improve, even in the administration of elections. So that's what we are committed to doing. So that improvement in quality should really help assuage the hard feelings of those who may not be getting seats.
You've been criticized for opening your doors to conversations with Americans, for example, and quite a heavy criticism in that regard. What is your response to?
It's misplaced, certainly misplaced. We meet with ambassadors, we meet with the diplomatic community each time there's an election, we brief them. In this unfolding electoral process, we met with the cluster of European ministers. We've met with the cluster of Latin American, sorry, not ministers, but diplomats, ambassadors.
Yes. So it's not only the Americans. So in this
we've
context.
met with the American. We've met with them all together as well, and it was a well-attended a session that we have. So it happens in the normal course. I think people are beginning to see injury where there's none, and I think we really have got to have perspective, and not see harm when none exists.
However, help us understand why that's important. Those sessions are important.
They're quite important. We're not asking for money. We're not asking for technical expertise. We're not asking anything. All we're saying to them as a diplomatic community, know where we are with our preparations, know how our electoral system works, know how our technological setup such as the ROC works. And it is precisely because of those interactions that the Electoral Commission receives delegations upon delegations of electoral management bodies throughout the world who come visit us to come learn about the things that we do, because because then the ambassadors, they become people who go out there and say what we've seen in South Africa, it's transparent, is this and this, and as a result they get their own election management bodies to come and learn from us. And that type of sister, brother engagement with other election management bodies can only enrich electoral democracy throughout the world. So no harm there really. It's part of the work that we do in the normal course. It's like meeting with labor unions. We have to brief them.
That happens as well.
That happens. We have to brief them. We meet with traditional leaders. They need to know what we're doing and why we're doing it the manner we do. And agricultural unions, we meet with them, and there's nothing untoward. It's part of our stakeholder management process.
It's an interesting role, and you're talking about how others come to the country not only to view but also to learn. How is our technology advanced in the electoral process? I'll phrase this way in relation to other countries. Surely you also go to other countries to learn.
Oh, indeed, we do, and it will be short-sighted of us if we were to become insular and look at things purely from our own perspective. Look, technology, it's important in any sphere of business endeavor, as well as in the election. So one of the key driving forces behind innovation, obviously, is advancement of technology. Now, you can't ignore those advances. For instance, we're having a difficulty in registering young persons. We then introduced the online registration portal. In other words, employing technological innovation to take a service, an election service, to the lounge, basically, where people are.
Which is
24/7.
not how you've done it in the past.
Which is not how we did it in the past. As a result of that technological improvement, in 2021, only about 8% of 18 and 19-year-olds were registered. But in these elections, 27% of them are registered. So you can see that massive improvement. Of course, we're not where we should be. No doubt about it. Not by a long shot. But it begins to show you that if you employ your technology to solve your problems, but you've got to be careful. And it's not technology for the sake of it. You've got to say, what is my problem, and how can I employ technology to resolve that problem? So we're doing that then to resolve our problem of young people not registering. 27% of them are now registered. It was 8% previously. It can get better if we remove certain structural constraints.
Example?
An example of a structural constraint is data.
Yes, of course.
Yes, they
so
say
it must be cheap.
It must be free.
Free.
Data free.
Yes.
They say, and we did a survey of young people, and they said very interesting things. One of the things they said was, look, the little data we have is for us to be on Instagram, not to consume public services.
Not to register to
No,
vote.
not to register. Yours must be a zero rated.
You probably shook your head when they said that.
I said no. I must set up a meeting with the CEO of Vodacom and MTN and so on, so that we can assist them. But
Yes.
it was quite interesting. So that's how technology has moved. Now, if you look at the screen, unfortunately, they're
It's
not
off.
on.
Yes, there's a giant screen behind us.
Previously, you'd have had to do that thing on a simple thing such as a projector.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but now these are LED screens.
You've been around. You've been around long enough to remember when there was an overhead. Remember the one
The
where
overhead
you would
projector.
put this in, and there was. You've been around long enough.
No,
to
I
know
would
that.
know that. Yeah. So even then, this type of technology is very new technology. You can do many things with LED screens against what you could do with a projector.
Many years ago. Yeah.
So it won't be only a leaderboard for election day. I will play our own TV ads.
Okay.
We'll give messages.
Of course.
And so on through video there. So possibilities abound with the improvement in technology.
Let's speak about voter technology. We're dealing with countries around the world. In what's this? In India, elections were happening now a few days ago or so, and we're talking about where you just tap and it's good enough. You leave. Are we there yet?
We have to get there.
Okay.
And we will get there. One of the things that we've been doing on the side is talking to the political liaison committee, because we need buy-in at that level. But we are also preparing a national policy discussion document on electronic voting. And that national policy discussion document must achieve a few things. One, what is e-voting? Because part of the problem in the public discourse is many people have different perspectives about what e-voting is. So we've got to clarify that concept.
So while we are still learning how to make an X, you still now have to educate us to use technology.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also to then say, what are the types of things that the technology that we wish to employ must resolve? So again, that's important, because we don't want to introduce technology because it's
the world
nice
is moving.
You've got to introduce technology to solve social and public process, because it's a public intervention, it's a public policy intervention. So we've got to resolve something. So, and then say, this is the types of problems that beset our electoral processes. And therefore, the type of technology we need must do 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then once you've done that, and say, given that, what is the model of electronic voting that will be suitable for South, given the fact that we are an uneven country? Because you want to have a model of electronic voting that you can use in Sandton and also use in Mamabolo.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise, once you introduce disparities, you are affecting the right to vote of people differently. You're giving others more access than in comparison.
You could create anxiety for others that are just saying, I don't understand it, I'm not going.
I don't understand it, I'm not going. But it's easy for a young person to use it in Sandton, but the one who is in Matatiel takes 3 hours to use that machine. So you've got to consider all those disparities. Yet, it is something that we can no longer avoid. We need to start engaging it, and the Commission will, through this discussion document that will be released at a point, will start doing that.
While we're talking about young people, I worry about, you spoke about having to work really hard to get them to register. Now you have to work hard to get them to go and vote. And I know this question doesn't only apply to young people, but I ask it specifically about young people because, as you've indicated, the level of interest is quite tricky. Are there strategies by the IEC in particular to try not only to get young people, but to get people to go out and vote in numbers? Because that speaks to your results.
No, it speaks to the voter turnout, no doubt, and the results, therefore. Look, there's a fact that we don't have to forget in the debate, and that is actually young people once registered, their proportion of participation is much higher, is above average.
Okay.
So the challenge, therefore, has always been to get them to register, because once so registered, they participate in high numbers. But your question is also broader. You're asking, what are we doing? If you look at the community radio stations, because we've got to talk to people who use that component of media. We're having over 30 broadcasters where our staff go on a regular basis to do shows to explain things to people. We have over 2,000 democracy education facilitators on the ground working with groups in the wards, explaining things to people and so on. But you'd have seen that we have a very strong voter education campaign with the 3 ballots and how to mark them and so on TV. So we're not only doing voter education that in the traditional way, we're also doing it on TV because of the visual impact of TV, which is why we're in this podcast. And also social media itself. I mean, we have an election center on TikTok with a rich vein of information about the election. Where am I registered? How to use the 3 ballots, voting station layout. All those of things are now on TikTok and WhatsApp as well. We do have a WhatsApp line, and if you say hi to our WhatsApp line, you have access to all those material there with our videos and so on, all there available.
You might as well tell us the WhatsApp line.
Well, you caught me on
no,
that
he knows
one.
it. Don't worry. He'll tell us. David is here. He'll tell us.
But it's an important thing to have for your viewers.
We'll strap it. We'll put it on the screen.
Yeah. So those really are the new ways, really, of providing voter education without ditching out the traditional methods, because you've got to provide for all LSMs, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And ensure that everybody is informed. So on election day, we do anticipate throngs of people, legions of people who are going to descend on our voting stations.
That's true.
My sense of the environment is that this election, we're going to see a slightly higher turnout than was the case previously.
What gives you that sense?
The political dynamics. The political dynamics. We are also watching the campaigns of the different political parties. We're seeing these huge numbers. That should tell us something about election and we think that Mudumo must result in a greater participation of people.
You were completely. I disturbed you. You're saying next week, while they're descending, what do you anticipate? You anticipate a greater participation?
I anticipate a greater participation, which means people would have to be patient. I mean, we just had the the voting process overseas. People were patient. I
saw videos. I couldn't believe it.
It was a joyous occasion. It was South Africans celebrating who they are. That's what an election is about. It's not about who are you voting, why are you voting. No. It's about celebrating our common nationhood. That's what this day is about. Whether you vote this way or the other way is
neither here nor there.
It's of no moment. What's of moment? We are both expressing our common nationhood as South Africans.
That's such an important. I get goosebumps when you say that. From the 1994 elections, I was still at university. I was of age to vote. I remember how it was a joyous experience, irrespective of who you were going to vote for.
Exactly. It didn't really matter.
Who you voting for?
No, it didn't really matter.
Now we're wrapping up. I'm curious really about whether as a union on the day of elections, and I call this all of you as people who are together putting this together at different parts of election points. How do you monitor the integrity? How do you monitor that akuna manyofonyofo. People are not doing the wrong things.
Yeah, well, there are different layers of oversight which are inbuilt in the process. Firstly, as a basic thing such as showing an empty ballot box to party agents and observers before voting commences to ensure that no one says, no, by the time we came, the box was already stuffed. So a basic thing like that. 2, party agents and observers must observe the whole process to ensure that it is run in accordance with the law.
Yeah, 100%.
Secondly, you count the ballots where they were cast. You don't move them from one point to the other, because once you do so, you open speculation that no, between point A and B.
We saw this.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you eliminate that by counting where the ballots were cast. But after the ballots are cast, there's a result slip.
Yes, okay.
You say party A so much, party B so much. Each party.
It happens on the spot.
And on the spot at the voting stage.
Yes, yeah.
Each party agents must then sign to confirm that what is attributed to their party, the ballots attributed, or the number of ballots attributed to their party is correct.
That happens immediately.
There at the voting station.
Say on the 29th, by end of the day.
By morning of the 30th.
That's why
by
people
morning
don't
of the
sleep.
30th.
I forget. That's a horrible day.
Exactly. People don't sleep.
Yeah.
And then once those slips are done, signed, and so on, they are put in a tamper evidence bag and delivered to the local office of the IEC. At the local office of the IEC, those result slips are scanned into the system, the result system.
So they have barcodes, I imagine, or something like that.
They have a barcode that links them to a specific station, so a unique barcode. It links them to a specific voting.
There can be two.
There can be two.
Yeah.
There always has to be one.
Okay.
Now, once that image is scanned, parties that will be here, they'll be able, throughout the country in similar result centers, to see that result slip.
Whoa.
They'll see it here.
That's why these many computers here.
Precisely the reason why there are so many computers. They'll be able to see it here.
So it's an automated process, essentially, that part.
That part is automated.
Yes.
So there are elements that are manual, of course, and there are elements that are automated.
Yeah.
But after scanning it to create an image of the result slip, which can be seen here and throughout the country in similar result centers, 10 of them, then it is captured.
Yeah.
In other words, party A 40, party B so much, and then it's a double capture system.
Okay.
The screen goes dark, you recapture again. It checks the first and the second capture to check whether they correspond. If indeed they correspond, then the system accepts it. But it doesn't end there.
Okay.
There's also the private audit industry that has been engaged. There's a consortium of legal auditing firms led by Grant Thornton who are coming to then audit the result. They take the original signed result slip against what is captured in the system.
Almost physically, and check
physically,
again.
one by one.
Whoa.
And then when they agree that what is captured and what is on the result slip correspond, then they put a unique audit code. So if there's a problem with a specific result, we will know who audited it, who gave it a go ahead. If it's Mashabela, we are able to, through the audit code, to trace steps back and say, on what basis did you authorize this result slip?
Do you consider this foolproof, this process?
Before I answer that question, now after the auditors have
done their bit,
then it updates the tallies.
So what we see is after all of that.
It's after
when we
all
see a
those
number
rigors.
change. Yes.
It's after all those rigors.
Yeah.
And similarly, political parties now can see. Remember, I said they can see the image of the result.
Of the actual,
now they can see the captured result as well and put them side by side. Say, okay.
You can almost count for yourself.
You can do it for yourself.
Literally, every
and
time.
I'm told there's a party that is putting their own result system and whatever. And that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Because you want that extra layer of transparency. Is it foolproof? To rig an election, it will need the collaboration of the party agents, the observers, our presiding officer, the auditing, auditing
Yes.
industry,
Yes.
and party representatives will be here. Now, I'm not sure whether you can manage it to get all those people to collaborate in your rigging
favor.
project. I don't think it's possible.
However, there's a point that stands out, and I keep hearing it a lot, that this particular election, amongst others, I'm sure they're similar, will find it difficult to rig it because there are so many parties that will be watching other parties. Like everyone will be watching each other, so to speak.
Which is important.
Yes.
That's why you have party agents, precisely because they're watching the Electoral Commission, but they're also watching, so there's a horizontal and vertical relationship there of watching. Which is fine. We welcome that because, as I say, the party agent innovation, it's an extra layer of oversight which is necessary.
3 ballot papers. Help us understand it in simple terms.
Okay. Let's take, firstly, the National Assembly. National Assembly is composed of 2 tiers, or 2 components. The first component is province to national. In other words, electing people from a specific province into the National Assembly. Yes. That has its own ballot paper.
Got you. What color is that again? Is that the blue one?
It is the brown one, the so-called regional ballot.
Yes, of course.
Or province to national ballot. The second ballot paper, the second tier of the elections of the National Assembly is a proportional representation ballot paper. The Constitution demands that the outcome of an election must in general be proportional. So you use that ballot paper to restore proportionality. Those are the 2 components of the elections of the National Assembly. Each one of them has a unique ballot paper.
Yes.
So those are 2 ballots for the National Assembly.
Can we say those are the ones we were used to? Is that a fair statement to make?
No, because the new one that is introduced is actually the regional ballot, the brown one.
So that's the new one. Yeah. That's the one we are not used to.
That's the one we are not used to. And why it was introduced is because that tier of the elections of the National Assembly also involves independent candidates.
So for the first time?
For the first time, independent candidates will be appearing on the province to national ballot or the provincial ballot, the brown ballot.
Got you.
And then, as I say, then the second ballot is the proportional representation ballot to restore overall proportionality, which is blue.
There's a pink one.
The last one is the pink one, indeed. The last one is the pink one, which is the provincial ballot. There, independent candidates as well as political parties contest together for seats in the provincial legislature. Those are our 3 ballots. That's the common one we are used to. We've been using it over the 30 years of our democracy.
Do you think, and I ask this very innocently, that there might be a measure of confusion from people? So far, what is your assessment?
Potentially, and we remain. Everybody has to be vigilant, which is why, at every opportunity we have, we engage on this question to ensure that people understand that you need to be given 3 ballots as the first step when you get into the voting station, and that you make a single mark on each of those ballot papers in accordance with your choice, and that you then put them into the
individual boxes.
Ballot boxes.
You will be guided.
You will be guided. There's what we call a ballot box controller who will say the pink one into first, orange, the brown one into the second, and the third one, and so you'll be guided about that. Not to worry. But that's precisely again why we are even on TV on the 3 ballots, because we really want to reach many people and clear the air, because there are a lot of misconceptions about the 3 ballots.
What do you think is at the heart of the misconception? Is it people just saying you're bringing something new again? We don't know what we're dealing with.
It's an aversion to change. Human beings, all of us, we have a inherent aversion to change.
Yeah.
Something that changes, it shakes us.
A little bit.
It shakes us a little bit.
Does it worry you, this change, from a participation point of view, maybe?
No, it doesn't worry. It just says that we need to be careful and get the message out there. Even in the last few days that remains, let's get the message here and ensure that people are strengthened so that when they go into the ballot box, they go in confidence.
Mm-hmm. I want you to talk to voters and fellow South Africans. Really just encourage them to take part in these elections. We do this for no other reason but to get the message out there. I remember about a month or so ago, I was battling with the idea of doing political interviews and so forth. And I remember, I got a call from a political party and they were asking if I could speak to them. And I said, I'm not interested. I don't want to do this political thing. But the more inquiries we got about it, we realized how we owe it to ourselves as South Africans, and in this case, as a channel, to help this process as well. Because we have an audience that probably only watches us and nobody else.
No one else.
So we felt maybe there's a need for us to play a role, however small. And that's why I want to express our deepest gratitude to you in this busy time for really granting us, a few minutes of your time to educate our viewers on the subject. But I want you to communicate to South Africans and ask them to vote. There's your camera.
Okay, fellow South Africans, this is the moment created by your own constitution to record your political choices, and by so doing, to shape the future trajectory, developmental trajectory of our country. If you don't vote, you give others an opportunity to decide for you. But if you vote, you are part of the decision. You are part of the decision about the type of development that South Africa is going to experience going forward. So this is unique. It comes once every 5 years. Stations open at 7. They'll so remain until 9 p.m. Make time to come at the station and record your choice.
Important point. What if I'm still in the queue at 9 and the queue is still long? What happens?
No, everybody will be helped.
Yeah.
As long as you are on the queue at 9 o'clock, you will be helped whenever that becomes.
It'll close when everyone is there.
No one will be turned who was on the queue at 9.
Is the security cluster on high alert?
Yeah, they are. We're having regular updates. They have a comprehensive security plan to safeguard people, to safeguard property, and to safeguard the materials of the commission. And they'll be active as they should be, and we hope that nothing untoward happens. They have their deployment plans and so on, and the people must know that it will be safe, and that's the message that we really want to take out there, that it will be safe. No life must be lost because there's an election in this country.
I've been involved in events the better part of my adult life, and there's one thing we worry about, particularly if we're having an outdoor event, is bad weather. Because bad weather makes people say,
maybe not.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
I'll see it later.
Yeah.
Do things like that even cross your minds? Or do you say, it's act of God?
No, they do. Those are things that preoccupy the Commission in its engagement with the President on the determination of the date. Because you really have got to be careful when you have this election. You can't have it when you have high propensity for rain.
Of course.
For instance, in the summer
season.
In the summer season, you can't have it also when it's too cold. Because people don't want mid-June and so on.
Yeah.
So that's why you find that by and large our elections are in May.
Yeah.
Because practice tells us that it's safer.
It's not likely to rain. It's not likely to be too cold.
Yes. It's safer from those two.
Yes.
So dates are carefully chosen. It's not
They're
just
not dumb sacks.
It's not a picky Mabelane. No, it's well thought out.
Yes. I appreciate this time. I wish you well. I really wish you a easy election.
Yeah.
I think easy election is an ideal election.
It's an ideal election,
Yes.
but no, there's no such a thing in the contemporary world. There's no such a thing.
Nothing.
Everybody wants to win. Everybody is very competitive, and everybody expects that they'll do well. But that's not a problem. We will facilitate that for as long as people accept that there are 14,000 candidates and there are only 887 seats. We're going to do it according to the book, but not all of them are going to get seats.
And they must just accept that.
And people must be gracious to accept the outcome.
Wish you well. Thank you so much.
Thank you that much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure being here.
And for allowing us in this amazing facility.
You're welcome.
You know, it's
you're welcome.
When I was here yesterday, and I couldn't believe the size of this thing, because it used to be at the SABC at some point.
That was the provincial one.
The provincial, yes.
Yeah,
and at some point it was at the Pretoria
the
showgrounds.
Yeah.
And I'd never been to a result center until this one, and the SABC one, because I worked there, I would see it from a distance.
Yeah.
And now being inside it, it's not small.
No, it's not small by any stretch of imagination. It has to be big, grand, so that it works.
And I see media well represented. I see radio stations, they have little stalls, almost like it's a soccer game.
Yeah.
And I see TV stations, they have beautiful sets everywhere.
Yeah. No, look, we have a significant media presence here, over 160 journalists.
International?
Part international, part domestic. A strong international BBC, Al Jazeera, and the type.
I find it interesting that there's so much interest. I guess South Africa is an important part of the world. But that interest is obvious, isn't it?
That it's obvious, but this election has been different because of the dynamics in the political environment and so on, hence that level of interest. But the voter must tell us.
That it's a different election.
Yeah, the voter must decide.
Have you voted?
Not yet. The law provides that those that are working on a day to get a special vote, so I'll be voting via a special vote.
I should have applied for that. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thanks.
I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
King David Studio Podcast.